Welcome to Financial Investing Radio, where you'll learn the secrets for consistent, high-probability returns in the financial markets for additional income to change your life. Grant applies consistent, high-probability trading systems for the financial markets. He's only recently started sharing these tried and true market secrets. As a gift to listeners, Grant is offering his roadmap to high-probability financial control. Go to financialinvestingradio.com and download yours today. Now, here's your host and trading veteran, Grant Larson.
Hey everybody, this is Grant. Thank you for joining. So I was thinking back about some of my experiences I had when I was a kid. I was growing up in California, some of my growing up years, and my dad, he had a mini bike that we'd get on and ride. Now, one of the tricks that I learned as a kid on mini bikes is that they have no shocks on them, right? There's no shocks. That you bounce everywhere, right? Every bump on the ground, you feel all the way up to the top of your head. And so the first time I rode it with my dad, it was a blast, but it was so bumpy, I thought my teeth were going to pop out. Now, a mini bike also has another very interesting characteristic. It has a very short wheelbase. So when you turn too fast, there's a high probability that you're going to fall over to the side. And of course, we did that, right? We got into some bumpy stuff. My dad tried to turn really quick, obviously turned too fast, and anyway, it launched us, right? We landed on our head. So sometimes figuring out our investing strategy is kind of like riding a mini bike, right? It could be a bumpy ride. If you turn too fast, you can spill your assets all over the ground, right? Now, I want to point out a few things for us to think about when we are trying to figure out what's the right route for me, right? Do I do something in the markets, right, with stocks or whatever? Do I do something in real estate? Or do I do something like maybe I'm investing in a business or whatever we try to do, right? We got to come up with some parameters to guide us. Here's a few to think about, right? Number one, how much money do we have at the moment, right? That influences us. And maybe it's not much. Maybe we have to spend our time building up till we have enough to do something with. So that's important that we get our arms around, obviously, our budgeting, controlling our discretionary spend. Obviously, that all needs to go deeper, right, in terms of, what's really driving us to accomplish some goal. All right, so number one, what sort of money do we have? Number two, how much time can we anticipate for some sort of return? Can we wait a year? Can we wait 2? Is it 5? Do we need to wait 10 seconds? What is that parameter? We have to know ourselves in terms of our personality. Number 3, what's the time and the effort that we can put into managing the investment? Maybe each week it's only a few minutes, or maybe it's a lot of time. And number 4, what's our risk tolerance? Right? Or do we have absolutely zero risk tolerance? Now, in order to grow, we're going to have to take on some kind of risk at some point, but we have to find out what is the risk tolerance that we have. Now, capital preservation, that's always job number 1, right? For sure. Now, let's try this out on a few scenarios. So I'm going to start with person number 1. Purely hypothetical. So if any of you out there are called person number 1, sorry, this isn't you. I just made up the name. Ready? Person number 1. Person number 1 works on a full-time job, has saved up $10,000 and has 2 kids. Now, person 1 can put in maybe 30, at most 60 minutes throughout a week. 30 probably, right? Throughout a week, right? Taking care of the kids, working the job. That 30 minutes, they're checking on the investment, and they have a very low risk tolerance, right? They worked hard to build up this $10,000. Now, going after an aggressive investment strategy will not be a wise move here. Now, focus on capital preservation with conservative returns obviously is going to be a better move. So this could come in the form of a CD, right? Or maybe a long-term stock opportunity, something like that. All right, so that's person number 1. Person number 2, again, purely hypothetical name. If your name's person number 2, I'm not talking about you specifically. All right, person number 2 also works full-time, has saved $20,000 and has 3 children. Person 2 can put 30, maybe even 60 minutes throughout a week to manage the investment and has a higher risk tolerance. They're also seeking higher returns. Now, person 2 could consider some real estate opportunity, right? Such as pooling some money together with other investors. And so there are multiple ways in which you can accomplish this by pooling it up to find, an opportunity to get a higher return, right? Maybe it's going together on buying an extra condo, or maybe it's a flip, whatever it is, right? So you have a little more leverage there, and you'll get a little higher return for sure. Person number 3, again, purely hypothetical name. Here we go. Works a swing shift, has saved $7,000, has 1 child. Person 3 can put in 2 hours a day in the middle of the business day because of the swing shift. And so 2 hours a day during the week to manage the investment, and they're looking for a higher return. So person 3 could consider self-directed investing maybe, or they could consider trading. All right, given that they have the right education, there can be obviously much higher as this person has a higher risk tolerance. So you have to think through, what are my parameters? Okay, what were the 4 again? We'll repeat those, right? It's how much money have I saved? What is the time that I'm looking for a return? How much time and effort can I put into managing the investment each week? And then what's my risk tolerance? Make sure we ask ourselves these questions. Now, what's important is to pull together this framework and to figure out what's our aptitude and our interest and our availability in doing this. And then come up with a scenario that works. It's a step at a time, right? And this always just goes a step at a time. Now, it's certainly going to feel like a bumpy ride when you get started, right? Especially while you get used to riding this, right? And there'll be times that you're going to shift, right? You get going and be like, oh, this isn't really the investing style I was looking for or expecting. And you may get thrown off the mini bike and spill some of your assets on the ground, right? What's important, though, is never take your hands off those handlebars. So even if you feel like, oh, this is not the kind of investment approach I wanted to go with, figure out what you can do, of course, to remove that. But, before you go into any of those, right, look very carefully at it. Okay, those are the 4 items. Thanks for joining, everybody. And until next time, figure out your investing strategy.
Thank you for joining Grant on Financial Investing Radio. Remember to subscribe and leave feedback. Don't forget to download your free roadmap to high probability financial control before you make an investment decision. Visit financialinvestingradio.com now.